Imagine this. In 2020, your child was in kindergarten and had to take all of his classes online from home. He wasn't allowed to go outside and play with other kids. Instead, he just played video games alone in his room. His only source of socialization for months was you. When he was allowed to go back to school, everyone had to wear face masks. He couldn't read the facial expressions of other kids, so this was essentially all that he could perceive. Did the other kids like him? How was he supposed to respond to conflict when every situation was new? Socializing with the other kids became stressful and even scary. It's now 2023 and your child is in the 3rd grade. He's acting out because he's stressed out, he is not making any friends, and the teachers called home multiple times to address his behavior. He's having outbursts at home. He doesn't understand the consequences of his own actions. He's not responding to social situations the way he should, and his emotional regulation is stunted. Your child's only 9 years old and he's already depressed, he's anxious, and he has severe behavioral problems. If this seems scary and bleak to you, it really should. In 2020, the 10th leading cause of death for children between the ages of 5 and 9 was suicide. It was the 2nd leading cause of death in children ages 10 to 14. That is a really scary statistic. Since January of this year, there have already been 8 school shootings in the US, with the youngest perpetrator being only 6 years old. There is a clear gap in the emotional and social health of children right now, and the results range from disruptive to downright deadly. What would happen if children were allowed to play more? Link focuses on improving overall health and well-being in children with more playtime and physical activity. Children in my study receive 30, 45, or 60 minutes of outdoor recess every day. Link includes Positive Action, which is a character development program that works on altering the practices and policies of schools and school districts to help change up what schools are doing so that children can really benefit more. The children in my study take an online assessment where they're asked to respond to characters' faces and social contexts, and we test them in the fall semester and then again in the spring semester so that we can see any emotional and social changes within them. Positive Action has seen some pretty outstanding results so far, such as reductions in high school dropout rates, substance use, bullying, and weapon violence, and they've seen increases in attendance rates, academic achievement, and family cohesion. Link's recess component has also seen wonderful, wonderful results since coming back from COVID. Students are improving their on-task behavior by up to 40% and they're less anxious. More play and this character development program, they're both the antidote to reducing childhood and adolescent suicide and homicide rates and creating happier, more resilient children. Thank you.
In this picture, Luca just finished getting 8 stitches in his forehead. He had crept into our room early that morning and at some point decided to show us how hard he could bang his head into the dresser. When we got to the hospital, the ER team was short-staffed and they were impatient with us. I could have been angry, but having been a nurse for 20 years, I realized how hard it is to take care of people when you have limited resources to do the job. In the US, we are not strangers to overstretched and burned out healthcare workers. In the news, thousands of nurses recently were pictured leaving their hospitals to protest working conditions. In my specialty of nurse anesthesia, CRNAs or nurse anesthetists are leaving their jobs at record rates. The question I had is why? Last year, I conducted a study aimed at understanding or exploring the experience of CRNAs choosing to quit their jobs. I interviewed CRNAs from all over the country and listened to their stories. After conducting the interviews, I analyzed their narratives for themes. Threads that were common throughout their stories were the need for work-life balance, wanting to be valued as a person in their jobs, and poor leadership. Present in each narrative was the theme of wanting their jobs to be a better fit for their personal lives. Participants described work schedules that didn't allow for childcare, that in the inability to get time off for family events, or work being so stressful that they brought it home with them and it consumed too much of their energies at home. A theme that resonated with me was participants saying that they felt like they were valued only as commodities at work instead of people. As one CRNA put it, we were chronically understaffed to the point where basic human needs were not being met, like being able to eat or go to the bathroom. And it just revealed how little they cared about all of us. Participants also talked about how leaders were uncaring or ineffective at dealing with the problems they faced at work. One CRNA told me about a CEO who was constantly saying, I want this to be the best place to work, but at the same time was unwilling and refused to change workloads that were too much for them. The experiences shared by these participants paint a picture of healthcare workers realigning their priorities to better meet their needs at home. By continuing this line of research, I hope to continue to provide a solution so that the people who are taking care of Luca or you can do their jobs better. Thank you.
A transitional movement from stationary standing to a constant speed walking. I like to view it as a complicated orchestra with multiple components including postural control, single leg balance, and coordination. More specifically, during the process, two legs function in great harmony with the rest of the elements in the system to produce lateral weight shift and forward propulsion. Previous research on gait initiation has facilitated the design of rehabilitation strategy for individuals with lower limb injury and the assisted devices like exoskeleton and prosthetic. However, those research has only been focusing on forward gait initiation. Non-forward gait initiation remains largely unknown. In fact, non-forward gait initiation happens a lot in daily life. I want you to use your imagination with me. Imagine you are inside a grocery store of the cereal aisle. Oh, Lucky Charm. Oh, Cinnamon Toast Crunch. Oh, a healthy option. During the whole process, my lower limb is constantly performing non-forward gait initiation. Therefore, my master's thesis, I aim to investigate what happened during non-forward gait initiation. We put motion tracking system on participants and ask them to perform non-forward gait initiation. Okay? I have a total of 4 directions, 3 of them are non-forward. Here's what I find. Both postural control and stepping movement are directional specific. In each stepping direction, there's a unique pattern of movement that is not just a local compensation, meaning the change is not just happening around your leg, but a whole body alteration. Additionally, when stepping toward non-familiar direction, for example, directly to the side, there will be an increase in movement variability by up to 35%. Those findings suggest that a comprehensive movement program should include a variety of movement direction, and the design of assisted device need to consider non-forward direction to ensure the functionality of the individual. On average, a healthy young adult walks 7,000 to 9,000 steps each day. Every time before you walk, there will be a gait initiation phase. With the information from my thesis, I hope to help individuals with lower limb injury who is either going through a rehabilitation program or using assisted device to receive better treatment and better outcome. Thank you.
Let's all just take a minute or 3 and just be grateful for our bodies. Our bodies can do some really incredible things, but we tend to just take it for granted. We can climb the tallest mountains on Earth. We can also learn how to do complicated medical techniques that take years to master. But there's also things that are really incredible, but we just take them as ordinary, like carrying groceries in from the car or hugging our child. These things take muscular strength, the ability to move our muscles and be able to do the things that we need to do. You know, a lot of times when we look at strength, we think of big muscles, weightlifting, the classic stuff. But I'm here to talk about the secret side to strength, the side we can't see, our brain. Something so wonderful and complex that often we just take that for granted as well. Now, when we think about our overall body and our strength, things tend to go wrong. We usually are only grateful for our body when things are wrong and our strength is gone. That's when we start to worry, and unfortunately, it happens all too often. 1/4 of all the people over the age of 25 in the United States of America will suffer a stroke at some point in their lives. 89% of those are ischemic, which should have some sort of unilateral impairment. But even more common, orthopedic injury that requires some sort of immobilization. If you're immobilized, your muscle starts to atrophy and lose strength, prolonging rehabilitation. So now it's not that the injury, the ACL, needs to heal up, but now the muscle needs to get strength back. So now this makes it a difficult thing. You're looking at me, this is a great, clear, and present need. How do we fill this gap? The classic research mindset. But the big question is, I can't move this arm. How am I gonna make it stronger? How can I help it? Well, that's where the secret side of strength comes in, our brain. If I train this side of my body, a fascinating thing happens. My brain is able to maintain the muscle size and strength in the injured limb without even lifting a finger, which is absolutely fascinating. It's called cross-education. It happens in the shared pathways of the brain, in the two hemispheres, and the subcortical processes. In a study that we performed here at TCU, as part of my dissertation, we took individuals that wore a sling for a month. We paid them, but it was still an incredible feat that they did for us. And we put them in the sling, and we had them train their healthy arm. They had no decreases in muscle size or strength after a month of a sling. Well, the control group that didn't train had significant atrophy. It's pretty wild. So we can all look at this and think of, wow, there's a million applications for this, and I'm sure you've got at least a few on the top of your head. But let's start with the grandparent. It's able to hug their grandchild again with both arms after a stroke. Be able to appreciate the ordinary tasks that are actually incredible feats. Thank you.
Reps, sets, squats, deadlifts, exercise, specifically resistance exercise. Are women underperforming? There's a common misconception that if a female enters the weight room and starts lifting weights, she will immediately get bulky. Sister, if you started working out and bulked up like a bodybuilder, I would love some of those genetics. Truth is, resistance training is vital for overall health and well-being and muscle fitness. But currently, we have very general recommendations for both males and females. So what if we could train smarter and not necessarily harder? An underdeveloped area of research currently is the sex-based differences in exercise performance. Females are not just little males. We differ in anatomy and physiology. In general, males do tend to have greater muscle mass and larger proportional area of fast-twitch muscle fibers, leading to increased strength and power over females. But don't get me wrong, I'm not saying females aren't strong. In fact, females actually have the advantage point over males when it comes to fatigue. Fatigue can be measured using electromyography, or EMG. EMG measures the electrical activity of our muscles, which can be used by putting sensors on our skin, and it taps into the neuromuscular system, which is when our brain communicates with our muscles. So, and also, a key point that I want to point out is how females are understudied in literature. Females, this is where my thesis comes into play, so I am looking more specifically into creating more sex-specific recommendations for females when it comes to resistance exercise, which can be beneficial in rehabilitation, sport performance, injury prevention, and overall well-being. So when contractions are sustained or repeated, literature has shown how females are able to perform more work and lose less strength over time. In our lab, we have preliminary data which shows that in a resistance trained population, working out at the same relative intensity, females were able to perform more reps and lose less strength. This shows how females are more fatigue resistant. This is huge. As an exercise science community, we are not tapping into this potential like we could be. To our knowledge, no studies have been investigating the sex differences in fatigue and recovery among aerobically trained individuals during a resistance exercise bout. Endurance athletes include resistance training in their workout programs in order to increase performance, thus supporting the need and the relevance to investigate this specific population. So the purpose of my study is to compare resistance exercise volume, recovery, and fatigability among endurance-trained males and females during an acute resistance exercise bout. These findings will shed new light into sex-based differences in exercise performance and more specifically enhance the development of stronger programs for resistance training for females. Thank you.